I got asked by one of my subscribers, how would the Romanian communist regime treat an individual like Hassan Piker? The reason that this question is interesting because Hassan Piker is a supporter of communism. But like many American communists, they don't really pick a country that they like. They don't say, well, like the communism that they had in East Germany is something that I find interesting. I wish we would have that here. No, the communism that Americans promote is ideological. It's utopian. It never existed, but if it was brought to exist, it would be amazing. So the question, how would the Romanian communists treat Hassan Piker, is very interesting because we actually did have communism, and we can actually look at the law and the code book that existed back then and apply it to Hassan Piker. So from a moral standpoint, from a cultural standpoint, the communists of Romania would appreciate a man like Hassan Piker because he works out. They used to say that healthy mind belongs in a healthy body, so from that aspect, they would really appreciate him. However, they would view him as a decadent person, a degenerate. It's actually a word that the communists would use for various reasons. Number one, he is obviously pro-choice. The Romanian communism was heavily against that. Romania required a lot of children to work in the factories, so any type of birth control was outright banned, made illegal. Women were forced to apply to checkups regularly, starting from their menstruation at school all the way up until they get married. After that, it was the responsibility of the husband to check on them. So any type of agitation, any type of suggestion of pro-choice, no, absolutely not. The second reason is that he supports LGBT rights. I mean, we're not even going to talk about transgender issues, like just the idea that a person would support gay rights in communist Romania or many other socialist nations in Europe at the time, except for East Germany, would definitely label you as an agitator. Most people around you would distance themselves from you, considering you a disgusting person, but if you kept doing it and you were making a big fuss out of it, you could actually get arrested. So that would be the morality of Hassan. And then it's also the lifestyle that Hassan has. This would be considered extremely decadent. The idea of owning a mansion was unthinkable. The Communist Party was promoting people living a very modest lifestyle because the idea was to not think of yourself as an individual, but to think of yourself as a piece of the collective. If you own a large mansion, what about other people? Like, not everyone can have a large mansion. There's not enough space. So you need to make sure that your life is as restrictive as possible, not to suffocate other people from the collective. This was something that was ingrained from school. Like, the moment you started kindergarten, they would constantly drill this into your head, that your duty is to live the most modest lifestyle that you can possibly have. So it wasn't that you can't afford clothes. It was that you're not allowed to have brand clothes. It wouldn't be like, let's say they would have iPhones, right? It wouldn't be that you're not allowed to have a cellular phone. It's like you're not allowed to have an iPhone. Like, you're supposed to get like the cheapest thing available so that there is enough for everyone. And obviously, like in a place where the economy is centralized and the government owns everything, then rationing has to take place, right? So, yeah, you are allowed to have one car, just one. You can't have two. It's going to be the cheapest car available that everyone else has, and you're only supposed to drive it when absolutely necessary. So the gas is rationed as well. I guess they were a little bit environmental friendly if you think about it, right? They didn't have ESG points, and they didn't have like a limit on your credit card on how much stuff you can buy, but you did have a ration. So you couldn't buy as much meat as you wanted. Like, you could only buy like 1 kilogram of meat. And even if you had money to pay for more, you would not be able to get it simply because you didn't have any more on your ration. So the fact that Hassan Piker would be promoting communism wouldn't be relevant because everyone else was promoting communism. What would be relevant is the way he is behaving and living in such a decadent life. They would call it like the Western decadence, the consumerism, the horror that's coming from the West, the cancer of the world. Like, they had a lot of names for the type of lifestyle of a person with body that buys a lot of things and enjoys a lot of things in life. Because, again, you are supposed to live incredibly modest. And when I say this, like, don't think about, like, the average American that lives, no, even more modest than that. Like, try to think as the poorest person you can think. And then that's not modest enough, right? Like, if you're an American, like the poorest person that you can think that lives on food stamp, he's still not living modestly. Usually we're talking about like a one-room apartment with like 5 or 6 people in it. That's how modest you are expected to live as. And when your clothes got teared, like if your shirt got torn, you weren't supposed to buy another shirt. No, you are supposed to sew it. And you are supposed to patch it and use the same piece of clothing for as often as possible. Unless, of course, you are an inner party member. Like, if you're an inner party member, you have access to all the luxuries and amenities that you could possibly imagine, but I don't think, like, Hassan would be that, because you'd have to be the son of a farmer, you had to be, like, the son of the proletariat, you know, not the son of a wealthy guy, because the wealthy were the aristocracy, which got shafted when the revolution came around. So... with that out of the way, let's talk about how Hassan would make his finances. Well, he would definitely not be able to be a streamer, because the economy was centralized. Everything was either a co-op or it was directly run by the government. So the very idea that you could even perform a service for someone else in exchange for cash was disgusting, if not actually illegal. So if you, for instance, had a friend and he wanted... to build to place a new roof or to repair something, and you would say, yeah, sure, I'll help you repair it. In exchange, you're going to pay me. That was illegal. Like, you were that's evil capitalism. That's harmful. No. So, like, the idea of you going around and just starting a stream and getting donations or ad revenue, no, that's decadent capitalism. That's disgusting. It's disturbing. No. You need to work in a factory. They would actually tell you where you're going to work. And it didn't matter if you liked it or not. Like, if you didn't want to work, they also had the name for that. It was called social parasite. So a social parasite was a person that didn't want to get a job. And the police, if they found you out during daytime when people were working, they would apply a correction. Like, they would physically take you to the police station, and you would come up with several bruises because you tripped down the stairs. And then they would throw you in a factory. I know a case of... a person of Roma ethnicity. My uncle told me about it. My uncle was an engineer in a factory. And this guy was of Roma ethnicity, used to sing at weddings. And he was really good. He was making a lot of money. He was making a living by going to weddings and singing. The police finds him during working hours. They applied the correction. They told him, it's like, how dare you think you can make in a weekend the same amount of money that an honest worker does in a month. So they didn't appreciate that. And they threw him in a factory. Now the problem is, like, the guy didn't know what to do in the factory. Like, he was a very good singer, very good entertainer, but we don't have freedom, right? We don't have free markets. We don't have capitalism. Everyone has a place. The collective desires you in the factory. So he went to the factory. People were mocking, ridiculing him because he couldn't do anything, and it was a very sad tale. But it's communism, right? Like, it doesn't matter what you want. The collective gets to decide for you. They also valued traditional thinking, right? So any type of promotions of human sexuality, any type of contraceptives, any type of pornography or whatever that was considered degenerate was forbidden, which is why when communism fell, not only did people enjoyed watching the live execution on television, but Romania went like full degeneracy mode afterwards. Because, you know, like, human sexuality is kind of like a spring. You press on it, and when you remove the thumb, it just jumps up. Like, the idea that there aren't social repercussions for censorship and banning things is ridiculous. So, like, yeah, like, if people watch Hassan Piker streams, and if he ever, you know, enjoys watching an e-girl or something like that, more moral decay, they would have considered it. And, yeah, they consider people with moral decay to be infectious because one bad apple can contaminate the bunch. And these people had to be re-educated. Read Orjilava's or Pitești prison experiment in order to see how the Communist Party would help the Tovarish understand communist principles. Now, there's one more point that I want to address because I see this come up a lot of time on Twitter. And a lot of communists like the idea that, well, at least in a communist system, you had welfare. So if you are a disabled person and you couldn't work, then the government would provide for you. Yes, they would. No, seriously, this is like one of the things that you could say, well, okay, right, if you are disabled, the government would provide for you. But they would actually make sure first that you're disabled. So you would be surprised how many people today would be considered disabled that the communists would find, no, like you're a healthy person, you're going to go to work. For instance, let's say that you can't move your legs. Let's say you're paralyzed. Well, that's okay. I mean, to sit as an elevator button pusher doesn't require you to get up from the chair. And that was a job that they would give you. Like, there were, in many places, especially hospitals and bigger stores, like, there was a lady sitting on a chair. Often she was actually disabled. And she would ask you, like, which floor do you want to go? And she would push a button. And she would do that for 8 hours a day. Oh, you can't speak. Well, that's okay. Like, if you want to work in a sweatshop, you don't have to communicate. So, like, you had to be, like, genuinely a person that's not able to function in society at all. And even then, they would be suspicious. But like, okay, fine. If you're that person, they would probably give you some welfare. But other than that, no. Like, they would find you a job. No matter the disability, they would find something. And if they couldn't find something, then they would make something up. The idea was that who doesn't work doesn't get to eat. This is actual communist propaganda, which is borrowed from the Bible, but they put a little spin on it, because in the Bible it was like, who does not want to. No, the communist is like, who does not work. Doesn't matter if you want to. If you don't work, you do. So a lot of people in the West have this very bizarre vision of communism. They think that it's an utopia. You would be surprised how many things they have in similarity with the Nazis. Not ideological, but like life under communism. Like living under communism, divorces were banned, pornography is banned, any type of contraceptive is banned. If you choose not to work, people look at you suspiciously. If you choose not to get married, people may think you're a homosexual. This was the culture. And it wasn't just in Romania or Eastern Europe. No, it was pretty prevalent, especially in the Soviet Union, outside of the satellite states. No, it was the times. So, to me, it's very hilarious when I hear, like, oh, fascism this, fascism that. It's like, dude, communism would look at your fascism and it would spit at it in disgust because it's not fascist enough. That was the difference. It's like it wasn't fascist enough. And, like Benito Mussolini's Italy, compared to states under communism, like we would have to teach Benito Mussolini how to do shit. Because he wouldn't know. Like he was like still a liberal, decadent Westerner compared to us. So all these people that are talking on Twitch and that they're promoting communism or Marxism, they have no idea what they're talking about. And the reality of the situation is that was like due to corruption. I mean, it was a little bit of corruption, but like it's not a reason, right? It's not like they didn't know how to make communism properly. The reason for it happening was that the economy had to be centralized. So the government owns everything. Like the government has complete power over the citizens to the point where they can shoot you if you try to run away from the border. Not if you're trying to get in. If you're trying to get in, they would probably take you. But if you try to escape, like Romania was the biggest prison on earth. Well, probably not Romania, because like all Soviet states were like that. But the idea was like the border was there to keep you in, not to prevent people from coming in, right? And this is like my argument when I tell people that say, oh, well, Romania was so great under socialism. It's like, okay, well, why were the borders closed? If it was so fucking great, why aren't people from Western Germany trying to get into Eastern Germany? Like, how do we make sense of that? But anyway, the idea is that the government has all the wealth, right? So if something bad happens, you can only blame the government. There's no one else to blame. So the government needs to suppress information when bad things happen. It needs to silence dissent. And secondly, it still tries to redistribute the wealth because it's so much wealth that they can't use it all. Like the party members, like they get obscenely wealthy, but at one point, like they have to redistribute something because So, in order to redistribute wealth, they do have to tell people, hey, live a modest lifestyle. Because there really isn't that much for everyone, right? It's like, you can't have a mansion, because the inner party members have a mansion. You can't have a mansion like them. There aren't that many mansions to go around. Like, there's a finite number of mansions. So, the few mansions that are reserved for the party members. you're going to live in a hovel, you're going to fucking like it, you're not going to bitch about it, and you're going to have rations, right? They're going to have their own ESG scores, they're going to be very pro-environmentalism, like not enough meat, you know. You didn't have to eat the bugs, though, like, unless there was a famine. But normally you didn't have to eat the bugs, but you had to become vegan, mostly. Like, 80% of your diet was vegetarian, and you supplemented that with, like, 20% of meat. Even if you had more money, you couldn't do anything about it because you didn't have ration. You couldn't buy as much gas as you wanted because you had ration. You couldn't buy as much sugar, oil as you wanted because like, everyone needs to get it, right? There's not enough to go around. So, well, if there's not enough to go around, then you gotta make sacrifices, tovarищ. And the ideological indoctrination, of course. Like, every movie, every TV show, like, everything was praising for the nation state. Like, you think America is cringe with their Pledge of Allegiance. Oh, my fucking God. Like, that's like... That would be like the very bare minimum. Like, even when starting, like, pledging allegiance to the flag would be like, okay, but... That's implied, right? Like, we need to start the national indoctrination. Like, we can... Patriotic songs, daily attendance, like one day in school just to praise the Communist Party and the working class, constant indoctrination into why the West is bad and our way is good. All the experts saying that communism is the best system that mankind has ever developed. Just nonstop. They would call it a golden era, that we're living in a golden era. Everything is amazing and awesome. Encouraging to do sports. They had some good things as well, yeah, every now and then, like encouraging people to do sports. Healthy mind and healthy body. As I said, they would have liked that aspect of Hassan. Which is why they probably would see hope in him. Like a little bit of re-education. You send him to Pitești, and when he comes back, he's going to make a great factory worker, and the Communist Party is going to root out those evil Western ideas from his brain, like the concept of choice, the concept of individuality, the concept of LGBT. I mean, those don't fit with a decent social working class man, you know what I'm saying? But other than that, yeah. Let me know what you guys think, and as usual, I'll see you in the comment section. Take care.